Welcome in, everybody. Thank you for being here. Let's get you some mission audio, just a little bit in the background. It's very, very loud. How are you, Dead Horse? Good to see you, buddy. It's good to see you, my friend. We are dealing with, as she just mentioned, Dragon Resilience, a Crew Dragon spacecraft re-entering with 4 astronauts on board after completing their Polaris Dawn space mission, which included the first civilian spacewalk, or EVA. I'm having just cold water. I hope you're enjoying something delicious at home or wherever you are watching this. Hello, Leighton. How are you? Good to see you. We have visitors now from North America and Australia. How are the audio levels, please? So the plasma around the spacecraft that they're going to be experiencing during reentry is going to cause a communications blackout. You just heard that announced by Capcom. Thank you, Leighton. Hope you had a good weekend, my friend. I'm going to be a bit hyper vigilant because they have been playing things like copyrighted music occasionally, and I want to make sure none of that gets captured for the stream, distributed further, or recorded. Gravity is heavy. Are the audio levels okay on the stream side? In other words, the stuff coming from SpaceX? Uh, I believe it's currently on its way toward a splashdown target near Florida. Dry Tortuga? Let me double check. You can't hear my voice now? Oh, I have it down so that it's not too loud. Hold on one moment. The target for the splashdown is off the coast of Dry Tortugas, Florida, according to SpaceX. That'll be at 3:36 a.m. Eastern Time. And I do have the audio down on the stream. it's meant to be present, but not meant to be too loud. Let me adjust it so that you can hear it better, though. You should be able to hear the stream audio now, or the SpaceX side of the stream audio now. Better if I turn my webcam off? You'll hear them also call that LOS for loss of signal. Actually, every time pretty much anything comes back through the Earth's atmosphere that's meant to re-enter and be communicated with. Are you able to hear SpaceX now? There you go. Programmed to and designed to fly itself. Dragon is not flown with a joystick or other controls in the way older spacecraft were flown. It's a very autonomous spacecraft. Still cannot hear the SpaceX people. That feels fairly loud now in my headphones. I am seeing the levels very high on my system. Still not hear them now? Is the SpaceX side of this? Okay, thank you. That gives me a clue. Gary, that's very helpful. It gives me a clue.
See the drogue parachutes deploy about 2 minutes after, and then about 2 minutes after coming back from the blackout period, we'll see those drogues deploy, and then just a minute later, we'll see the main parachutes deploy. So, as we said earlier, this is a series of events that when you start, it seems like, oh man, it's going to take a while, but they do happen in rapid succession. And
How about now?
I just noticed there's a turtle inflatable down in front of Mission Control in celebration of our new landing location at Dry Tortugas.
Yeah, I love that. Celebrating our new splashdown zone, welcoming the Polaris Dawn crew home. And we are a little over halfway through that blackout period. We are expecting to hopefully gain comms back in about a couple minutes from now again. And this, you can see on your screen,
There we go.
is the first ground view of the Dragon capsule making its way back, entering the Earth's atmosphere.
I love this
Hopefully
view.
that fixes it.
It's so fun to watch this. I can only imagine what it would be like to watch it with our own eyes. This thermal view in particular is really cool because you can see the trail behind it.
Oh, that is so awesome. There's 4 humans inside of that capsule right now.
Once again,
This looks like the view that comes out is coming from the RB-57 bomber,
there is an envelope
former
of
bomber.
ionized air around the spacecraft, and it blocks radio signals from reaching Dragon. So this basically plasma field around it prohibits us from commanding the vehicle or from communicating with the crew. So this anticipated blackout period lasts about 7 minutes, so we should be coming out of it here in about the next minute or so.
By command, she means sending radio signals to the spacecraft to give it instructions remotely on how to operate, like radio control for a drone.
Hear from the Polaris Dawn crew first.
Oh wow, look at that view.
From the recovery ship stationed out in the water.
That is a sight to see for the people that are watching this live. It's not a comet. It is just the Polaris Dawn crew coming back to Earth. Wow, that is an amazing view.
Truly amazing view. So it's over on my monitor over here.
Once again,
should I think it by looking over here?
Blackout period to end in about a minute. Another view of the
Dragon SpaceX com check.
I can have you loud and clear. Help me, SpaceX.
Loud and clear, Jared.
They're back.
Automated chute deployment.
Incredible views, incredible comms. We have regained communications with the Polaris Dawn crew. This is a drone circling the recovery vessel, and that little white dot, I should start, the big white dot on the right, obviously the moon, the little white dot there in the center of your screen is the Dragon Resilience vehicle making its way, its final few kilometers back down to planet Earth after spending 5 days in orbit.
Wow, just some epic views tonight. You can hear the crowd here in Hawthorne getting excited. We've confirmed that we have comms with the crew.
Video from the cabin.
GPS converged. Expect nominal altitude for drogue chute deploy.
Copy that, SpaceX. We show the same and tracking.
And the crew is still traveling very quickly right now as they're coming back through the Earth's atmosphere. But as you heard, the drogue chutes should be deploying here shortly, and that's going to slow them down significantly.
Yeah, we expect those to deploy in about 90 seconds. And as we heard in those comms, it's triggered by GPS. So the Dragon capsule using that GPS will automatically know exactly when to deploy it, and that happens around 40 kilometers.
Interesting to see if they have the Cessna chase aircraft as well tonight. The infrared views traditionally come from the jet, the B-57.
And it's pretty incredible that we only
We can see seat rotation now underway. This helps put the crew in a more ergonomic position in anticipation of
Brace for
splashdown.
drogue window.
Copy, we're bracing.
should see those chutes deploy here shortly. And you can see the crew bracing.
Little bit of a delay from
change
on
of
that video
velocity.
feed.
Standing by for deployment of the drogue parachutes. These will help bring the vehicle down from about 350 miles per hour when they deploy down to about 119 miles per hour when the main parachutes deploy. There we can see that the drogue chutes have successfully deployed.
Again, we're looking at infrared or thermal images.
It's a great thermal image. And that view is from the actual basin where those drogue parachutes are located.
Dragon SpaceX visual on 2 healthy drogues.
They're able to
We show the same.
they're able to transmit
These
that
drogue parachutes help to stabilize the Dragon
quality of
capsule
video.
and get it
It's
into
pretty
the right
extraordinary.
orientation before those main parachutes pop out, as well as providing that initial deceleration.
This is such a great thermal shot of the Dragon capsule. You can see it turning a little bit with the drogue parachutes. And there are the 4
A little unnerving to watch, but that's the way drogue chutes deploy main parachutes.
Deployment here in just a few seconds.
Indeed. Roar, nice to have you joining us.
Incredible views of the Polaris Dawn crew returning to Earth after 5 days.
One of the chutes is not fully inflated. A little late. Looks like it's coming along now.
Dragon SpaceX visual on 4 mains and descent rate nominal.
It's a beautiful sight to see.
Copy that, SpaceX. We show the same. 1,000.
Copy 1,000.
Beautiful sight to see those 4 healthy main parachutes.
Extraordinarily high quality video. Very impressive.
In about 2 minutes, we expect our
At night,
splashdown to occur.
over the ocean, live.
You may hear the crew and the Corps talking. They're communicating about their altitude as they make their way back down to Earth.
We should start.
800.
Yeah, there it is. So we should start to hear and
Copy 8.
are hearing
800 feet.
Commander Jared Isaacman call out. the
Hello, Captain
altitude
Sam. Good to
as
see you, my
they
friend.
Descend to the ocean's surface.
Waiting at 800 feet. I hope they've got the flaps down and gear confirmed down and locked.
We can see the Polaris Dawn crew nestled in their seats there on the left-hand side of your screen as they anticipate their
600.
splashdown.
600 feet of altitude
Copy 6.
over the ocean.
And you can see the difference in velocity. This is a lot gentler than just
And-
a few minutes ago. Dragon is coming back down to Earth.
Absolutely.
And speaking of differences,
Deploy
the
at
Boeing
about
Starliner,
15
by
miles per
contrast,
hour and
comes
helps
down
bring
on
the
land.
Dragon capsule down to about 15 miles per hour when it makes contact with the ocean.
You can also see that the capsule is now
400.
the capsule is now stabilized. It's no longer spinning like we saw it with the drogue parachutes.
We're bracing.
Copy
200 feet.
embraced.
Bracing for splashdown.
That will be the final call we hear from Jared until contact with the ocean surface.
Well, this has been a fairly nominal re-entry and approach to landing.
Standing
Splashdown.
by for splashdown of the Polaris Dawn crew. And there you can
SpaceX
see.
FPV at Splashdown recently.
SpaceX copy.
Well done.
Splash.
Well done.
As you can see on your screen, and by the cheers behind us, the Polaris Dawn crew has successfully splashed down.
Welcome back to planet Earth, Polaris Dawn.
SpaceX recovery team now.
This is a thermal image. You can see how
process of
bright
strapping the
and
Dragon capsule
sharp the contrast is
the
between that
necessary,
hot spacecraft
rigging in
and the
order to
cooler
load
ocean
onto the
adjacent to
recovery
it.
vessel.
There'll be a fast boat that will race out there immediately to make initial contact with the Crew Dragon capsule.
Dragon capsule appears to be in a pretty stable position after.
SpaceX Dragon vehicles code 1, cruise code 1.
SpaceX copies code 1.
Now, the recovery teams have been ready and waiting about 3 nautical miles away. So it's going to take them just about 30 minutes to make their way to Jared, Kid, Sarah, and Anna, who are currently inside of the Dragon capsule that you see there on your screen, back here, home on Earth.
That surprised me. 30 minutes.
That call out that we heard earlier, confirmation of what I had said a little bit prior to in terms of that stable configuration.
Let
That
me,
one call out is the reflection of the crew's reporting of that landing position. We can see the Dragon capsule bobbing in the distance. Like Jesse said,
I'm
the
gonna-
recovery team is.
I'm going to turn their audio down so we can have a bit of a chat because I don't think she's going to add very much, or they're going to add very much more while we're waiting for the recovery crews to get to the spacecraft. But just to sort of recap why this has been a flight worthy of coverage and what's gone on here, this is the Polaris Dawn mission. It's been carried out aboard SpaceX rocket system. That's the Falcon 9 booster and a Crew Dragon capsule spacecraft that we see here, now floating in the South Atlantic Ocean. In the Atlantic Ocean. It's near the Dry Tortugas off of the coast of Florida. I guess the South Atlantic would actually be sort of somewhere between Africa and South America, on the way to Antarctica. Be that as it may, this flight had all private citizens on board. Some were employees of SpaceX, but they were not employed by NASA or any other international government agency. This was privately funded by a billionaire, and this flight flew higher with humans on board, I believe, than any human crewed spacecraft of any kind. See, this is what I was expecting. This has not been 30 minutes. That fast reaction boat I thought was going to get out there pretty quickly. It's definitely exactly, Roar. Well, what they've done is they've flown to, I believe it was 1,400 kilometers above the surface of the Earth, which has not been exceeded by human beings. I believe the figure is in 50 years. In 50 years, no one's flown higher than that. But probably more importantly is the fact that they did the first private spacewalk or extravehicular activity. There's no airlock in Crew Dragon, so they depressurized the cabin wearing untested in-space spacesuits, also made by SpaceX. Opened the hatch on the spacecraft, and then first the spacecraft commander crawled up through a ladder and out the hatch and looked around while doing some testing and reporting of the experience of maneuvering and in the new spacesuit. So freedom of motion, binding, difficulties, positive experiences, in actual numerical ratings on what the flexibility and mobility was like. And then he had a moment where he was just basically chest high out orbiting the Earth, looking out at the wonders of space. And then he went back inside the spacecraft. And then another member of the crew, who is one of the SpaceX employees, proceeded to come out. And this was a female crew member, and she did exactly the same thing, wearing obviously a spacesuit optimized for her physiology and giving her opinions and her ratings on mobility, range of motion, binding, and that sort of thing. And then she had a moment, and then she came back in. The other two crew members remained in their seats. Well, they remained in seats because they'd actually moved to different stations during this exercise. There was some comments made during the event by both the commander and the SpaceX employee about a seal that seemed to have been deformed from its launch configuration once the hatch was open, and the SpaceX employee actually went around the seal in the hatch with their finger and was pushing it back in, which is a pretty crazy thing to think took place during a time when the hatch was opened on the spacecraft. But the hatch closed without any incident. They repressurized the cabin, and here we are. They've now returned and are, by all appearances, safely back on planet Earth. I say by all appearances because they're not out of the spacecraft yet. Excuse me. In chat, we have our good friend Captain Sam Ransom, who says Apollo 17 was the last capsule out that far in 72. Thank you. Exactly, Roar. So the altitude was noteworthy, but the big part was certainly testing out those unproven, up until that point, spacesuits, and making sure that they could get the hatch open and closed. And these spacesuits are intended to be a big part of future human exploration of our solar system. So, as another member of the community in chat now watching the live stream points out, Jay Rohr, this was to determine in part to see whether they could make or they needed to make improvements. So having that data, that feedback on mobility, and having those ratings from two different people wearing the same suit, going through the same range of motion exercises, will hopefully give them an opportunity to make them more comfortable and more capable. Those are absolutely beautiful pictures. Would you prefer to watch this without my ugly face on? Because that's pretty good looking video. Yes, they can reuse the capsule, Dead Horse. In fact, I believe this capsule has flown before. Dead Horse also in the live stream chat, our good friend. I guess I've been given the blessing of our wonderful community members here to leave the camera on. Thank you. This almost looks like a tropical adventure with the beautiful blue water adjacent to South Florida. The number of times they intend to fly each of these Dragon capsules escapes me. I don't remember what the figure is, but I believe they intend to reuse them no more than 10 times. It may even be fewer flights than that. The big reuse is on the boosters. The boosters, I believe, are meant to fly more times, refurbished each time, than the capsules are intended to fly. That's from my distant memory. There's also some elements in there of how the Boeing Starliners, which this is not, this is the SpaceX Crew Dragon, are meant to be reused. And there are projected limits on reuse, but they were all supposed to be reused. So that 30-minute window the commentator was talking about a moment ago was really for the big ships to get close. And that's the one of those is the one that has the big A-frame crane that will actually lift this. They'll first drag it up to the stern or the transom of the ship, and then they will lift it up out of the water and place it on the stern of the ship. And from there, they will be opening the capsule and extracting the astronauts, the crew members. Loving the colored lights, loving the blue water. I hope it's coming through on the stream, but loving even the burned nature of the capsule. It adds to the sense of adventure. And it highlights exactly how primitive we are still as a species in doing this space thing. That scuba diver technician crew person there gives you a sense of scale for how relatively small a rocket that is. That's not a giant spacecraft. I know it's the capsule, not the entire rocket, but they're not exactly in a mansion in there. The room is somewhat cramped, and this has basically been, and I may get yelled at in the comments for putting it this way, but this has basically been a sophisticated cannonball. It was shot up with enough energy to put it into orbit, and it also had thrusters to adjust and change that orbit with great intention. And then it fell back to Earth, and it re-entered and got very, very hot and splashed down. But it didn't have the same freedom of motion as a 747 or an Airbus A350 for our European friends. Oh, the video appears to have, there we go. I mean, a 747 could fly from Los Angeles to Sydney, unload 400 people and all their luggage and all of their human waste and all of the garbage from the trash cans and the catering service, and be serviced in an hour or a few, maybe change a tire, probably not need to, and be reloaded with the same cargo, food and water, cargo being the human beings, their luggage, and real cargo, and go back the other way and do that several times a week. And this is still as routine as SpaceX has made it for us. And they are the only enterprise on planet Earth that has truly made space look something close to routine. It's still really hard, and it's still really messy. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm taking nothing away from the level of technology that's embodied in this. This is Cannonball Release 17. This is not 0.1. This is not closed beta. But it's not, I grew up watching Star Trek. This isn't a Star Trek shuttle pod which could come and go, from a planetary surface. And I'm kind of holding out, hoping I get to see something like that. I hope the children running around the planet today with big imaginations and dreams get to see something like that. The International Space Station, and this is one of the themes on my Twitch streams we talk about a lot. The International Space Station is near as makes no difference, a couple of 100 miles above the surface of the Earth. That's a trivial drive in many places that have car cultures in less than a day. Yet it is such an extraordinary expense and tension-filled effort to get cargo, let alone human beings, to that destination safely. These drone shots are amazing. They're gorgeous. Hashtag not sponsored. And Shane and Chad, it's nice to have you here. Thank you very much for joining us. I appreciate it. Relatively speaking, that water is probably somewhat warm, say, compared to the water off the coast of Newfoundland or New Zealand or Ireland. Long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, my scuba diving instructor, who was also an actor, nobody famous, but he got a TV show deal, and I think it lasted for a very brief period of time after I'd taken classes from him. And the show placed him in one of these Caribbean sort of adventure scuba diving type locations. And if I remember the name of the show correctly, it's probably listed on IMDb somewhere. It was called Key Tortuga, and this is in the dry Tortugas. Anybody want to check out and see whether that show existed or not? Key Tortuga. I don't want to open any new tabs while I'm streaming. Just want to end up capturing the wrong window. I'd like to stay with you if you folks would like me to stick around until we get them up on the ship and they get the hatch open at least. I think we're getting pretty close to that. I believe we just saw a shot through the A-frame, the big crane basically. Does anybody any of you folks that are watching think it a bit odd that they carried this out on a spacecraft? I see there's a conversation referencing the ISS without an airlock. Polaris Dawn, when your entire spacecraft is your airlock. But the process of dealing with an airlock is actually a pretty grueling one. If you've ever looked at what the astronauts and cosmonauts go through who are on the ISS when they're doing an EVA. There's the so-called A-frame at the back of the ship. And you can see there's some like a smashed donut shape described by a dark gray ring with a white thin sort of lining in the middle. That's the platform that they're going to be placing the Crew Dragon in, bottom down. Absolutely, Roy. Space is very definitely hard. It is very definitely hard. Am I the only one who is waiting, hoping that we're going to have things like that shuttle pod that have easier access, more aircraft-like access to low Earth orbit? Also would like to see more space stations being built, including those that are shipyards that actually are literally set up to make other spacecraft and and others that are designed to be ports, so that they are the source of journeys beginnings and ends, like an international airport. on Starship. Even Starship, as high tech as she is still very Bernie chemical rockety. And I'm using those non-technical terms on purpose if you are not familiar with me and my personality. I'm holding out for something that's a little more finesse than that. Starship is amazing. I hope it turns into a practical system, but it's still very Buck Rogers. It's flaming chemical rocket, you know, with barely controlled explosions happening out the back end. Not a criticism of the Starship. It's where the state of the art is. Roar, do you believe that they're going to succeed with the chopsticks catch technology instead of just trying to land it? Does that make sense to you? My understanding is that for Starship Test Flight 5, they're going to attempt to catch the Super Heavy booster with the chopstick arms and not have it be ditched in the ocean or attempting a vertical landing like they land Falcon 9. That water is so clear. Captain Sam, I agree with you. I agree with you. Propulsion technologies have been so often at the forefront of revolutions in anything from maritime trades and the art of war at sea to aircraft and spacecraft. From oars to the age of sail to steam, and then there are gas turbines even and nuclear power plants at sea. Aircraft began with very primitive internal combustion engines. Some of them still have primitive internal combustion engines with pistons. Others have gas turbines, turboprops, and jets. What a pretty shot. Modified offshore oil rigs. That makes an awful lot of sense to me as a pragmatic choice. And I believe the company is pushing very hard for having incredibly short turnarounds, which means that they don't have to go to the inconvenience of either bringing cargo and humans out to the rigs or retrieving them for refurbishment and servicing after a flight. But we'll see. We'll see. Building the infrastructure out so that it is no different than a big international airport on the edge of a town seems to make a lot of sense to me. There are activities along those lines apparently underway in pursuit of similar goals in space programs coming out of China. It'll be interesting to see how much focus SpaceX's not quite a rival because they're not performing it anywhere near the level of tempo or success, but Blue Origin, they're seemingly starting to finally get geared up, but it remains to see whether there's any there from Blue Origin. I thought that they had also disposed of some, Captain. I must admit I don't have the capacity to follow up on every single piece of SpaceX news. I thought one of the big space companies had purchased rigs and then decided against it and disposed of them. That doesn't mean it was SpaceX. Look at the soot and scarring. I saw somebody comment on social media when there was footage being shared of the mission commander's over-the-shoulder shot as he was standing halfway out of the hatch. Wonder what flat earthers are saying about this, is what the person commented when they shared the footage. I don't think that they find it persuasive, the flat earthers. Okay. So, Roar, my 2 or 3 brain cells were working well enough to recall that. Interesting. Yeah. Okay. The thing about SpaceX has been that it's you could view it as a pro or a con. Um, their rapid iteration means that they change directions. They try and find the best answers from their point of view. This is a factual description, not praise or criticism, and they're prone to make course changes because they learn lessons very quickly. So, for them to acquire something and then decide to go in a different way doesn't surprise me. Yeah. Uh, I'm not exactly a slow adopter of new technology, but here's the structure coming into view now. This is why they call it an A frame. Can you see how it sort of forms the letter A? These are oftentimes used on research and other working maritime craft in order to do heavy lifting. You'll see them with submersibles and other types of payloads. And this is the helicopter pad, actually, up higher in the superstructure. I once went perusing the SpaceX Help Wanted ads. They're almost always looking for maritime crew, from captains, licensed captains, all the way down through deckhands and engineers. They've got those positions in multiple locations. So if you're looking for a job in spaceflight, that was an interesting little bit of business there. Here we go. Does it strike any of you as odd that they don't pull them out as soon as they get up to the spacecraft? Rather, they go through this process. Look at the water. Look at the water pooled in that little opening in the side of the spacecraft. Can you see it splashing around right there? It almost doesn't look like a spacecraft anymore. Now it looks like it's an underwater exploration craft, like something out of Jules Verne, with the small round openings and all the scarring. Like those are almost barnacles and sea growth. Am I the only one who sees this? A little Jules Verne. Looks like they're leveling it out the last little bit. Tensions coming off that line. This is not the same hatch that they opened for the spacewalk. The hatch they opened for the spacewalk is all the way up on top, way up there. That seam across the top, kind of like as if you were to cut the top off of a hard-boiled egg. So they're going to open a hatch, though, right here, which is where they loaded them in the first place. Yeah, I understand. When they were doing the Apollo program, they pulled them out in the water. This is a different approach. It just feels, it's like it's almost having seen the Apollo program. This feels like when you hear a song that you know, and it's either the live version, so it's familiar but a bit off, or it's a cover. So again, it's the song you know, but it's not quite the song you know. So this process just feels a little weird to me. Not wrong, just weird. Looks like from the wake behind the ship, they've powered up and they're moving at speed now. Let's just say we'll stay with it till we get the hatch open. It's 0112 where I am. It's 1 o'clock in the morning, 12 minutes, and 12 minutes. For those of you who are not aviation or military nerds like me. All right, back to a live shot. Looks like the guys have grown some facial hair since the start of the mission. The men are in the middle two seats. The commander there is the is the guy on the right-hand side, I believe. So he'd be this first from the far right. Not the far right, but the first from the far right. Well, Roar, it's very nice having you join us for sure. I hope the hurricane that recently ran through Louisiana next door didn't do any damage to you or anybody you know. Well, I hope it didn't do any damage to anyone. I've been to Houston for aerospace trade shows. Very nice town. And actually for some other business too. Looks like they've taken the slack, or they've taken the tension. The last one did. We had 100 trees down and power was off for a week. Oh, goodness. I'm sorry to hear that. So here's an over-the-shoulder view. Warning: 1.12, pardon me, 1.21 gigawatts. Okay, that's an interesting warning. But that's the view over the shoulder at the console inside a Crew Dragon. And if you're wondering where the flight controls are, they're pretty much what you're looking at. Very, very, very limited opportunities for manual control of this thing. It's designed to be flown in an automated fashion with very little in the way of crew intervention. There's some buttons to push, monitoring to do. I would imagine that those displays are touch sensitive, but I don't know that actually for certain. But that would be a very SpaceX Tesla thing to do. Folks, I just want to see your capsule, your hatch open. Thanks, Roar. Member of our community confirming, in fact, that the screens are touch sensitive. As a civilian light plane pilot who's been in more than my share of turbulence, and I know modern aircraft are moving in this direction more and more, I don't know that I'm in favor of that necessarily. Oh, that's right, the donut slides. Because when you're moving around and you're bumping, it's hard to actually hit what you're aiming at versus a switch or a knob. I would imagine that that's fresh water to either minimize contamination and corrosion from salt water, or maybe there's thruster residual chemicals that they're concerned about. Maybe both. Assuming that was actually water. It could be some other solvent or cleanser or cleaner or even a lubricant for all I know to make the mechanisms function more smoothly. Let's get some audio back in here.
36 a.m. Pacific time, 3:36 a.m. East Coast time. And here we are 40 minutes later. Pretty quick operations by the recovery teams in terms of getting over to where the capsule landed, getting the parachutes out of the water, and adhering the required straps, and ultimately lifting the Dragon capsule up onto the recovery vessel as we just saw a few minutes ago. Right now, the recovery team outside of the Dragon capsule, like I said before, spraying down the capsule with some fresh water.
Dragon SpaceX, stand by for side hatch opening and egress.
He just confirmed it was fresh water that was being sprayed.
There.
Copy that, SpaceX. We're standing by.
Looks like those safety checks were quick and successful as everyone has doffed their respirators.
All right.
And there you can see officially the hatch is open.
I just heard cheering from a distant part of the building. I have a feeling that came from the Dragon teams at their computers. That was pretty cool.
I think this is a doctor who's first inside.
That is the flight surgeon doing initial medical checks, making sure that everybody is feeling good. I have a feeling by his smiling face, he's getting 4 smiling faces in return.
Absolutely. On cloud 9.
Polaris Dawn crew has now officially taken their first breath of Earth air in the last 5 days.
We can see the recovery team in the background, basically putting up some protective fixtures around the side hatch in order to ensure that as the crew egresses and gets assisted as they come out of the capsule, that they don't hurt the side hatch seals or themselves. Obviously want to protect the individuals as well.
They don't want anybody banging up their spacecraft on the way out. But I think that we have probably seen everything here that we are going to see that's going to be ensuring that the crew is in fact back safely, and I'm very, very happy that they are. I'm sure that all of you are as well. As a wonderful member of our chat community here just mentioned, yeah, they're excuse me, back on Earth and yet still on cloud 9. And he also pointed out, or they also point out that they were given instructions on how to get to the bathrooms, and probably if there's a Starbucks on board, and where on Earth is there a place without a Starbucks? They were probably given the code to use the bathroom. There they are. That's a very good sign. That's a small hatch, it seems, and that is a scarred spacecraft. Just a reminder, if you're new to the community, you can catch me. I don't even have a pop-up here or anything, but there's going to be a link in the description, I'm sure. You can catch me live streaming over on twitch.tv/AeroSpaceNews, or you could drop a follow here or check out some of the other aviation and space content. As you can see, we do live stream major space events, and hopefully in the future, some pretty big aviation events as well. Paris Air Show, Singapore, Farnborough, Oshkosh, all those things, military exercises where possible. So come join us on the adventure of a lifetime through the lens of air and space flight. And I appreciate you being here or watching this as a VOD. It helps enormously to grow the channel if you like the video itself, like the stream, and leave a comment and watch a few other videos on the channel afterwards. So that's completely free and would be very much appreciated. And of course, you could pound the subscribe button and join the Discord as well. All that's free. My friends, thank you for coming with me on this. I'm glad we got to see this moment in history come to a very, very safe and successful conclusion. It's been a very interesting mission, and I hope they start coming, not necessarily funded by billionaires, but I hope these private adventures start coming fast and thick, and that we finally find ourselves living in the space age that we were promised, those of us of a certain generation, when we were children. So I will head over to the ending screen here. Bear with me. And thank you very much. Be safe. And I will talk to you soon. I hope you and yours fare well.